Welcome back, my friends, to the Mail-Right Real Estate Agent Podcast Show. We are on episode 120. I can't believe that. And happy Halloween to everyone, by the way. It's our Halloween show. I'm excited about our guest today. In fact, I'm going to have to contain my excitement because she's on so many topics that I love talking about, but we got to focus. So I want to welcome Debbie Drum to the show, who is an entrepreneur. She's an author, a blogger. She runs webinars. She's a marketing expert is what I'm trying to tell you folks. And there's some things we're going to talk about today, such as one of the books that she wrote that I really want to get into is Read Better, Faster. We're going to talk a little bit about evergreen content and maybe even some automation on how to get things done better, faster. So without further ado, Debbie Drum, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I am so thrilled to be here today.
And tell us a little bit about yourself for the listeners that might not be familiar with you.
Sure. Well, I started doing online marketing in 2010 after Googling the term how to make money online because I saw all these people who were making money from home, and that really hit home for me because I was doing outside sales. I did outside sales for 10 years, which really prepped me to bring all those skills online. I sold in a very competitive niche, gained a lot of experience there and took all that, my presentation skills, my writing skills, my selling skills, my copywriting skills, which is everything that you really need to make money, whether you're selling stuff online, whether you're selling services, it all applies. It's just, using different mediums. So that's what I've been doing for the past 7 years or so.
Awesome. What was the industry you were in prior to running your own business?
I sold a tuition management service to private schools.
Oh, wow.
So it was a SaaS, software as a service. Mm-hmm. And so basically we handled all the tuition collection. They outsourced it to us. So they didn't have to send the bills to the family, collect the money, collect the late payments. We did all that. And we did all the reporting for them. So it really freed up their time so that they can do other things in the school.
It makes sense. It sounds like similar challenges realtors have. They might be different tasks, but I'm glad we have you on to talk about it. And we're going to dive into some questions, but I want to let Jonathan introduce himself, my illustrious co-host over there.
Oh, illustrious. I like that, Thomas. It's getting better every week.
Oh,
right. Oh, dear. I'm the founder of Mail-Right. We're a marketing platform that specifically helps you get quality leads from Facebook. Back to you, Thomas.
And I'm Thomas J. Nelson. I'm a residential realtor here in beautiful San Diego, California, where I'm never too busy for your referrals or to be a resource for you. And you can find me on thomasjnelsonrealtor.com or social media. All right, let's get back to Debbie Drum. So Debbie, first of all, before we dive into the content about Evergreen, I want to talk about your book. You've written a few books, but the one that caught my attention was Read Better, Faster. And I'm a reader. I still love reading books. I'll listen to them too. But I think you take in more when you actually put your eyes on paper. So tell me about, I know we can't, give away all the trade secrets in the book, but maybe a little overview about the book because it's such an intriguing title.
Yeah, thank you. This is my proudest book. It was a bestseller, I think, in like 13 different categories.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. And I think it's going to help a ton of people. It really helped me. And most of the things that I produce are problems that I have. And then being the salesperson I am, I try to bring that to the world. So one of the problems that I always had was I don't think I was properly taught how to read. And in my head, I would sub-vocalize every single word, which would naturally take reading books very, very long. I would get bored very quickly. My mind would wander. And I'd be so jealous of people that said, "Oh, I read a book in an afternoon." I'm like, "How could you do that? I read 10 pages this afternoon." So what I found is that, and people learn in all different ways. Some, audibly, visually, kinesthetic, by touching and actually doing things. So we're all different, and a lot of us use a combination of all these learning habits. And what I've learned for myself is that I read and intake information better when I listen and when I watch. So when I read, felt I was at a disadvantage because I wasn't able to get through material very quickly until I found this my friend explained it very awesomely, a life hack, right?
Yeah.
It's a life hack where you're not real, your brain, or you're kind of like turned into a computer where you can read, literally, you can triple your reading speed with the method that I developed that I called the Buzz Read method, and it uses visual and your audible functions. So that's pretty much the premise of the book.
Well, it reminded me, and you might be too young for this, but I'm showing my age. When I was a kid on TV, they used to advertise the Evelyn Wood School of Speed Reading, and that might have been a California thing. Where are you based?
New York.
Oh, okay. So I don't know if it made it to the East Coast, but and this is going back to the 70s, and they used to advertise these classes you could go to learn to read faster. And but then it came out later that it was kind of trite, if you will, because people weren't retaining what they were reading. They were getting through things faster, but they weren't really retaining it. So how does your method kind of help people lock in what they're reading so that they're not just cranking out these books for the sake of getting through them, but they're actually retaining a lot of what they're reading the book for?
Right. So when you connect the visual and audio functions, I believe that's the power of remembering things more, because when you're actually listening to something and then you're also following along on the page, you take in more. So if I was just listening to something and I was doing grocery shopping or I was making a bank deposit, my mind can't do two things at once like that. But when you're actively paying attention and following along, you can actually remember, oh, that's what the book was talking about. I remember the actual page. I remember where it was on the page. I remember the page number. So that really, really helps when you're actively involved, listening and looking at the words.
And that seems to be a skill that's eroding these days with what our phones and social media and real quick sound bites and video clips are doing to our attention span. So this is probably needed more now than ever. As someone that is an author and that helps other authors with a lot of your training, are you seeing any kind of a decline in people's desire to write books because they feel like we're moving away from books? Or is it as strong as it ever was?
It's as strong as it ever was, and it's actually harder for authors now because, in my opinion, it's after you've written over 50 books, it's very easy to write a book. What's not easy is marketing that book. So anybody can write a book. Anybody can put up a book. You can write a Kindle short book that has 5,000 words that could take you an afternoon to write and put it up on Amazon, and it can be selling tomorrow. But how are you going to get that book in front of as many eyeballs as possible, targeted eyeballs as possible, right? You can't market it to the world. You got to market it to the people who are interested in your topic.
Yep.
Right? And what's also interesting too is we live in this digital world. I've attended the Book Expo event, which is the biggest book author expo in the world for the past 2 years. Last year was in Chicago. This year was in New York. And actually, the print books are still on the rise. Despite all the bookstores that you see closing all around you, the mom and pop stores are closing. Yeah. But still, print books are on the rise. People, and almost everybody I talk to say, I prefer reading a print book over a digital book.
I agree with that. I mean, it's funny you mentioned that, the mom and pop stores. Now, we have two bookstores here. Warwick's is one of them, and they've been around for over 100 years, and it's like an institution here. And then to the other extreme, our shopping mall is being remodeled right now, multi-million-dollar remodel, and guess what goes in there? Amazon Books. Though
Yeah.
the beast that put a lot of the mom and pops out of business is now a brick and mortar, which blows me away. What's your take on that? Why do you think they did that?
We're going to start seeing that more and more because they know the data too. They know what people are buying. They know how people, they are the most, they know the most information out of everyone in this whole entire world about what's selling and how it's selling and what exactly to do, the formula to make money.
I would agree with that. I bought a gift recently, and that company now follows me around on every website I go to. I'm like, I already bought it. Leave me alone.
That's what shocks me sometimes. Like I see Facebook ads for things that I've bought already. It's like, all right, well, why are you doing that? They haven't gotten all figured out, but it's enough, I think.
Just enough to be a digital stalker.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and one of the questions I wanted to ask you too, because I mean, I've been published, and like you said, if you don't know how to market it, you end up like me with a garage full of books in boxes that you're like, okay, well, these are great gifts to give out and stuff, but without proper marketing. And that was kind of the bill of goods I was sold when I got brought in on it. It's your ego gets fed because you write a book, but then your ego gets crushed when you look at a shelf full of boxes of books that never went anywhere. Mm-hmm. So how are you helping authors? And again, I know we're going to speak in generalities here because they gotta hire you if they want to know the goods. But give us some ideas of how you help authors avoid these pitfalls.
The very, very first thing to avoid this pitfall is you need to write in a niche that there's always tons and tons and tons and tons of buyers. And there will always be tons and tons and tons of buyers. Because no matter how competitive a niche is, if you can create a niche within a niche, you can create your own personality within any topic and squeeze your way in there and get your piece of the pie. So a lot of people say, oh, I've always wanted to write a book. I want to write a memoir. Okay. Well, you know what? 5 people are going to buy your memoir because 5 people care about your memoir.
Right.
It's hard to hear, and I feel bad saying it, but think about topics that people really, really struggle with. People really, really struggle with public speaking. If somebody wants to get on stage and they can't physically get over their heart pounding out of their chest, or they can't speak because they've had so much saliva built up that they start like choking on it. Like that's a real problem that people will always have. And especially if you can incorporate some kind of personal story and experience, because remember, at the end of the day, it has to be a book. So with my book, I could have just said, yeah, here's the method in 1 paragraph. That's the challenge, right? You have to create a book out of it. You have to outline it and do all this stuff to make it intriguing for people to read. So that's number one. You need to pick something that will generate a lot of interest and an ongoing basis that people will always need. And that's what you have to kind of think about. It's not easy to think about something like that. But if it's like a fad, like my friend Tommy says, well, one time I put out a book on Facebook marketing. Well, Facebook changes every 3 months.
Right. Yeah.
So that information is obsolete after 3 months. Sure, you can make a killing in that 3 months, and you can decide to do that. That's fine. But if you want ongoing, continuous sales, and if you want Amazon to always push your book to the top because this is relevant to this topic and this topic and this topic and this topic, you're going to need that help from the big beast of Amazon to do that help, that pushing for you.
Are you in a sense like an agent, or do you get that involved with your clients? I mean, do you take them from publishing to marketing, or are you just there to train them on it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a publishing company. In fact, I self-published with a self-publisher only because you have to realize what your strengths are and not much your weaknesses, but like what you don't feel like doing. So I just wanted to write the book. I didn't want to do any of the Amazon ads. I didn't want to do any of the outreach to podcasters. I wanted all that work done for me.
Right.
So you have, if you want to do all that stuff, at the end of the day, you're going to be paying people yourself, or you're going to be paying people some royalties out of your book, and you have to decide what you want to do. So I'm not a publishing company per se. I really just help people, decide on, because there's so many different factors in writing writing a book, right? The cover, the editor, the actual writing, how to write it. Do you ghostwrite? Do you write it yourself? The marketing, they're getting reviews. There's so many different components, which is essentially why I'm in business.
Right.
Because there's so many problems. That's another thing, kind of going back to what you said. If you can find a problem in this world and you can help people solve it, they will never be out of work.
I like that. We're going to come back to this in a minute because you're making some excellent points here. But I know it's time to go to commercial. So Jonathan, I'll let you take it away, sir.
Oh, thanks, Thomas. Been a great discussion with Debbie. She's a great sport, great marketer. We'll be back in a few moments and continue with the discussion, folks. We're coming back, folks. We've had a great discussion with Debbie, and back to my co-host, Thomas.
Well, Debbie, one of the things actually a few things you've said already this morning have rung true with me in any industry. People might be asking, well, why is a real estate show talking to someone about publishing books? Well, everything you're saying correlates to running a business. I mean, you're talking about niches within niches. And in real estate, we talk about the riches are in the niches and being focused and then delegating, not trying to be the guy that sweeps the place out at night and the guy that shakes hands with the clients and writes all the offers and so on and so forth. You got to know where your strengths are, what you get paid $150 an hour to do so that you can pay someone $15 an hour to do the rest. So there is a true tie-in here, not to mention the fact that I think one of the unique ways, or maybe not so unique anymore, but a powerful way to market yourself is having an ebook or a book to use as a tool when you're meeting with clients, whether you're at a listing appointment, or if you're trying to do a call to action online and you need something to provide them when they get to your landing page. I think it's a great vehicle or tool to set yourself apart and set yourself up as an expert in something. So I want to ask you a question, and we kind of alluded to this at the beginning of the show, is evergreen content. And Jonathan beats this drum constantly, no pun intended, but because he's always talking about evergreen video, evergreen content. Where do you come in with that? Do you help people with their websites and marketing as far as evergreen content?
So basically, with everything that I said and that you said that I do, ultimately, I think that the way that I make money is by creating content. Mm-hmm. We're creating content right now. Right? Content could be created in so many. I'm actually writing another book about this because content could be created in so many different ways, and it could be repurposed in so many different ways.
Yep.
However, so we talk about evergreen content, which is content that can be used over and over and over again, and that's like your welcome to me content, right? And it's something that's, maybe it does have a shelf life. Maybe in 5 years that content needs to be revisited, especially if you do videos, because you 5 years ago is way different from you today, right? So, that's number one. And number two is constantly creating content in little bites. So like, whether you're doing a video, like none of my videos that I do on YouTube go over 7 minutes. At least I try not to. And then that content could be then transcribed into a blog post. That content could be chunked up and put as social media posts. And then you can link that to your other content that you have. So while there is always evergreen content, you're never really done.
Right.
Because if you stop creating content, like there are people in specific niches that could dominate the niche, like dominate it if they just put out more content.
Really?
And, oh my gosh. Like it's crazy. Like obviously fitness niche, that's not going to really happen unless there's like a fad diet that comes out and then you talk about it for like 50 different videos, and whoever Googles that term, your face comes up everywhere. And that's essentially what you want. You want your website to come up. You want your content to come up. You want your images results to come up in Google. People underestimate image results. They're huge, especially with mobile. And you want your video content. I'm a big video marketer. If people can see your face, no matter how scary it is, believe it or not, I was not your face, but doing a video. No matter how scary doing a video is, you gotta do it.
I was like, why is she looking at me when she said that?
No, she was looking at me actually, Thomas.
No, it's scary. It's really scary to do. But
one of the things I noticed about your videos is you shoot anywhere, and you're everything from completely made up to completely casual,
yeah.
and I love that about your videos because it seems to me like the message I'm getting from you is it's more important to get it done than it is to, have it like, polished and we're doing it in the studio every single time with a professional crew, and people get too hung up on that. Can you explain like your process? Like what do you have a plan that you follow, and maybe talk on that a little?
Yeah. And you'll hear different opinions from different and obviously multi-million-dollar marketers, they're going to have a video crew, they're going to have the highest quality technology. But if you're just a regular Joe, or Deb doing videos and you want to put content out there, there's always going to be people who hate you, right, and be like, why aren't you wearing makeup today, to people who absolutely love you and will watch every single video that you put out. And the more that you do, the more that you practice, the better you will be at doing these videos, right? So what I do is I generally have some kind of outline first before you even get ready to start shooting. Okay. Because if you don't, then the video is going to, a 10-minute video is going to take you 5 hours to do. Yeah. And I've been there before. It's frustrating. And then at the end of it, you're not going to even like it the next day. You're going to be like, oh, I hate that video. So it's going to be a colossal waste of time. So what you do is you have a little bit of a little script that you either memorize, or once you get good, you can just do it in bullets and just talk, freely. And then that's it. And you try not to ramble. You try not to say ums and ahs too much. And then that's basically it.
Now, will you shoot multiple videos in a day? Like, do you have a video shoot day, or do you shoot kind of more in real time?
Mostly I'll have a video shoot day only because I work from home, so the shower doesn't always get taken, the early part of the day. So, but if I especially if I'm going somewhere later on, I use that. I get all ready, I do my videos, and then I'm ready for the day. That's how my life works.
And then I have one other question for you before I know Jonathan has some for you, and I want to let him have a chance here. But what about webinars? You do webinars, and it seems like a great forum, but that's kind of like I guess the fear I have of doing a webinar, because I've been told to do them before for real estate, is do I have 45 minutes worth of content worth getting everyone's time and attention to? So like, how do you get past that And what's a good way of setting up a webinar that wins?
Yeah, so you definitely have to work out the content part, and there's always content to find. And remember, any content that you have done in the past, that doesn't mean that you don't have to redo that, because you're always going to have new people coming in and join. That's always like a worry that people have. Well, I already did that, but you can always rephrase things. You can rehash old things all the time. So you can always, the content part is it should never stop you. And, in a 45-minute chunk, if you think of kind of like 3 groups of topics that you can talk about, that should help too with your content. Also, like incorporating, frequently asked questions that people have, that always have, like there's so many. That's another thing about being in a good niche, is that people always have questions, and if there's tons and tons of questions and issues that you can solve, that's a sign of a really, really good niche.
Okay. Do you ever run your do you do a rehearsal webinar? Do you ever or do you just put it out there? Is it pretty live?
Just put it out there. Well, even when I was horrible at webinars, we just put it out there, and I would listen to myself back, and every other word was, and you start to. A lot of people hate listening to themselves. Now I actually like listening to my replays. Sometimes I can't think of a word and I make up a word. I'm like, why did I just say that word? But it happens, right?
Oh, it does. Happens on the podcast.
Especially for me.
But no rehearsals. And a lot of the times you're doing one webinar several times. So the first 3 will be kind of rough. And then you kind of work out the kinks, and then your next ones do better.
But before, anything from doing a Facebook ad to running a webinar, I mean, you really need a call to action and something you're trying to transport them to somewhere else. So it's important then, I would think, to have for a realtor, and I know I'm just throwing this at you, but I mean, so we might not have a book. Or what would be a good idea for realtors as an enticement to the call to action?
Oh, but before Debbie answers that, Thomas, I think we need to wrap up the podcast, and Debbie can answer that question in the bonus content.
Oh, a teaser cliffhanger. Okay. Look at Jonathan go with his marketing skills. All right. Well, then, if
they're very limited.
You want to hear the answer to that question, folks, you have to join us on YouTube. In the meantime, for those of us listening on the podcast, Debbie, would you please share with folks how they can get a hold of you if they want to get more information about your services and your products?
Yeah, sure. You can visit me at debbiedrum.com, and I'm on most of all the social media sites, so find me there.
All right. And Jonathan, if people wanted to reach out for help with MailRight and their Facebook campaigns and so on and so forth, how could they do that?
I'll go to the website. You'll find a mass of information and all our interviews, almost 100 of them, from a load of fantastic experts like Debbie. So it's a fantastic source about real estate and getting started in real estate. And contact me on Twitter at Jonathan Denwood, or go to the MailRight Facebook page. There's multiple ways of getting hold of me, Thomas. How can people get hold of you, Thomas?
Well, funny you should ask. Conveniently on a website named after me, thomasjnelsonrealtor.com. You can find me mostly on LinkedIn and Facebook online, and a little bit of Twitter, or do the old-fashioned thing and call or text me at 858-232-8722. Whether you need me as a resource or as a realtor, I'm never too busy for your referrals or your asks for help. I'm here to help, and so is the show. Let us know what you want us to talk about in the coming weeks, or who a good guest would be. Leave us show notes. And, of course, if you're not a subscriber yet, what the heck are you thinking? Sign up. It's free. Come join us. All right, we're going to sign off for now, and you can hear the answer to this provocative question over on YouTube. Bye-bye. All right. So now we're on YouTube. And so go ahead and answer the question, Debbie.
What was it?
Yeah.
Did we lose the question?
I think I got the question.
I was kidding.
Oh,
Yeah. So the question was, what could realtors do or say as a call to action when if they're giving information or if they're doing a webinar or training, whatever.
right. What would
There's
be their product to give as the reward for the call to action?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit tough only because realtors is very location based, right?
Mhm.
So, obviously if you're giving a group to targeted people in your community, you obviously want them to connect with you on social media. You want to probably try to get them on your email list,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
you can communicate, but then again, it's like, then what do you do from there, right? And definitely have some kind of email sequence if you can. I find that email sequences work really, really well. Let me rephrase that. Video email sequences, kind of like a mini course.
Oh,
So my first mini course that I did in 2010, which probably needs to be redone, but it's pretty evergreen, was like, how do you make money off of publishing a book? Like the 5 different ways. So each day was a way that you can make money. So if you can relate to that and be like, think of a problem and think of like a little short mini series that you can do every single day. And the goal would be for people to be able to connect with you, to be able to realize that you're the source of information for this topic, right? You're the go-to person, the go-to guy or gal. That's what you want to do.
I think that's a fantastic comment, Debbie.
I do too.
What I think a lot of agents don't do, and just going to put this to you, Debbie, quick, and see what you think about it, is example, Reno. Reno has a lot of new manufacturing facilities and there's a lot of new people. But if you did a search, like you were looking at moving to Reno and you just wanted to know about the schools, about Reno in general, just do a general search about moving to Reno, buying a property in Reno. As you know, you'd be amazed how little real value information. And I think you find the same about a lot of areas. If you did a search about if you were moving into area, and it's such a missed opportunity that a lot of real estate agents miss, don't they, Debbie?
Yeah, and that's a perfect example of thinking out of the box, where you're not just talking about houses, you're talking about, what's the schools like? What's the community like? Going to, the fruit market, local fruit market, and filming a short video there, and just little aspects about the town and everything. And you're not just talking about houses and real estate, you're bringing other things into the story. And that's a perfect example there. Yeah. You can probably dominate just by talking about little things around the town and having like 20 videos out there. That's dominating a market.
I like that. I've heard this before, but never put the way you just put it, and it made sense because you're taking a topic and you're breaking it down into bullet points with little. And how long would you say the videos are if you're doing a series?
Do it 5 minutes, the max 7 minutes. If you have a lot to talk about, 7 minutes is a good chunky video.
Right.
And it's not too much that people are going to get bored by you. And that's where, having that script, sticking to it, and just having that outline is really going to help you.
Yeah, I like that idea because then you could take, like just to use your example, like the farmers markets, and then you could go around to all the farmers markets in your area, and then that gives you a jumping off point to also talk about the housing market in that particular area. But that's not the main focus of it because that can get dry pretty quick. And you can offer links to if people want to read more. So I really like that idea. And sometimes just in how it's introduced. So kudos to your marketing there, because I think that reached me better than we've had other guests talk about it, but for some reason it just, So
I think another key thing, I want to see if Debbie agrees with that, is to write a plan out.
Yeah.
Write out a series. And like what Debbie's pointed out, which is great, you could also use it as a series of little emails that when somebody, you could have a sign up, you want to find out more about your particular series, sign up, and then you can send them a series, and then in those emails can be a screenshot of your video which takes them to a page. To get good SEO, you're probably going to have to do a write-up with the video, but it doesn't have to be War and Peace. It has to be focused on that particular subject of the video. But just write out a quick plan of action. Would you agree with that, Debbie?
What I always tell people to do is like either take like the top 10, let's say, or maybe even 20 if you're brainstorming, the top 10 questions that you get asked.
Okay.
The top 10 not just questions, but like just, you know, there's frequently asked questions and there should ask questions.
Yeah.
People that, you know, don't know what they should be asking you, and you can answer those questions as well. Or just ideas, whatever it is that, you know, the hot topics that you want to talk about, and each day do that. And, you know, you could break it down. You don't have to film everything in one day. You can break it down. In fact, it's nice to have you in different environments in your videos, you wearing different clothes, seeing the different aspects of your lifestyle too. Because ultimately in sales and anything, people are buying you.
Right.
Right? And that's what you're showing.
Now, another area I'd like to discuss quickly with you, Debbie, is that, and I've seen some of your videos and I thought they're fantastic on this subject, is getting stuff done, Debbie. I have a problem myself. And a lot of our real estate agent listeners and viewers, they're really busy people. And basically, the one commodity that seems to run out very rapidly is time. Yep. So, got any insights about getting stuff done, Debbie?
Yes. My biggest thing, like sometimes you have a project that is huge. It's humongous. And it's like, you think about it, you're like, oh my God, I can't possibly ever get this done. Oh my gosh. And what I recommend doing is, again, chunking. I'm a big chunker. I'll, you know, chop stuff up and take things little by little each and every day. So let me just get out my calculator here. And let's say I wanted to write a 20,000 word book, which is kind of like standard size book, a good enough book that you can put out there. And let's say I wanted to write 400 words a day. So I do 20,000 divided by 400 is 50. So that book, I can have an entire book created in 50 days if I just stick to a schedule of writing 400 words a day. And 400 words a day, when you know how to create content, is nothing.
Right.
It's nothing. It's literally like 13 minutes worth of work.
Yeah, it's an average blog.
Yeah.
but Debbie, I'm going to ask the obvious question. How do you keep to the schedule?
You have to keep to the schedule no matter what. And it has to be literally, you have to make a to-do list, and you need to write on your to-do list 400 words. And you do not let that day pass without you finishing that task. And if you know the topic that you're writing about, it shouldn't be very hard to crank out 400 words about whatever chapter you're writing in. Now, sometimes that does require some research, and then we can utilize, what's great about the world we live in today is that we can utilize very smart people very easily. So, for example, I hate writing rehash, researchy type articles like how to shoot a screencast video. I'm not going to sit there and write word for word and do pictures and I just have no time for that. But I can give an example of what I want and tell somebody to do it for me in an original piece of work, and which I own when, after I hire that person and approve their work, I own that content. So now I've just saved myself a day because I don't have to write 400 words that day because I hired somebody else to write it for me. So normally when I write content and do content, I do something that I call like the hybrid method, where I do the things that I want to do and I can do, and I know that I'm the only one who could do it, or I think I am, but it's probably not the case. And I outsource the stuff that I don't want to do, or I know somebody else can do it better than me.
Now, Thomas, before you came on, joined us, Debbie, Thomas was saying that he knows a few agents that are kind of closing down for the next couple of months. He was amazed, and I was quite amazed. That's exactly the opposite you should be doing. You should be really planning. You got any remarks or insights about planning, strategy planning, that what you should be doing in a quiet period about getting ready so you start the new year fully fired up?
Yeah, I mean, the planning stuff, that's always good. But the thing is, the major advantage that you have to realize is that 90% of the people are not going to be planning. I don't know the percentage, but the majority of the people are not going to be planning. But if you are the one that is planning, man, you're going to hit the ground running, and you're going to be so far ahead of the other people who are doing nothing. They're watching Netflix. You can do that too, though. That's the great part about it. You can schedule time to have fun. You can schedule time to work out. You can schedule time to be with your family. But a lot of the times, and I realize this in my own business, is that the things that I think are huge tasks literally only take me about 30 minutes to do.
Yeah.
Like, they're only big because you need that momentum to just start and do it. But once you start doing it, you can crank out 45 minutes of work, and that's 45 minutes more than somebody else is going to be doing. So.
And a finishing question for me. Obviously, Thomas might have another question, but where's your little friend, your little dog?
They're actually have two. They're sleepy time now. They're sleepy.
Oh, they're asleep. They are the star of some of your videos.
Yes, they are.
Well, I mean, you've made some excellent points, Debbie, and I'm really connecting with a lot of what you're saying, because I've trained for years with coaching in a lot of what you've touched on, and so I wholeheartedly agree with you. And I think like some of the things that really resonated with me that you were talking about is the scheduling. Jonathan asked, well, how do you accomplish the 400 words, for example? And for me, I do actually do 400 or 500 words a day as a writer. I do it through blogging. So if I'm not going to work on my book, then I'm going to have to work at least on my blog, because that to me is like going to the gym. And so a lot of agents say, well, I don't have time to do that. Well, guess where I found the time? It was at 5 a.m. How committed are you?
Exactly.
I get up early and I do it. So it's done before the day gets crazy. It's done before anyone else in the house is awake and can interrupt me. So, and this was a skill. I didn't learn this from coaching, actually. I learned this from being a dad.
Yeah.
Getting up before the kids are up, that is where I learned it. It's like, that is the quiet hour.
And the morning is actually the best time to write, actually.
I find it is, yeah.
Yeah, I think a key thing about that, Thomas and Debbie, is it's got to become a habit. I am a creature of habit, big ways. Actually, my friends actually mercilessly take the mickey out of my habit-induced life. But that's how you get things done, really, realistically. When a thing becomes a habit, it then becomes pretty concrete, doesn't it, Debbie?
Yeah, and my friend actually put it perfectly the other day. She's a fitness trainer. She's like, an adult's version of I don't know how to do, or I don't have time to do X, like go to the gym or write, is the adult version of the dog ate my homework.
It's so true because
Yeah.
I mean, we somehow have time to do some of the stupid things we do.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it kills me when like I hear an Asian go, "Oh, I binge watched Game of Thrones this weekend." I'm thinking, really? I mean, aren't you the guy that told me that like you don't have time to do this webinar I've been trying to get you to take with me, or
Yeah. But that's quite interesting actually, because 5 years ago I decided to stop watching American television, and I do watch some stuff on YouTube. I watch Debbie. I haven't got time for Debbie's webinars, but I do not watch general American television. I haven't put the television on. It's actually unplugged and isn't linked up to a service that would provide it. But I haven't watched an American television program for 5 years, Thomas, and I've got to say I feel so much better for it, Thomas.
I can imagine.
There's only so many murders, monstrous events that you can watch in a lifetime, isn't there, Thomas?
Well, yeah, and if the biggest thing that's really popular on TV right now is horror and zombie stuff, and I'm thinking you don't need to watch American television to watch zombies. You just look out on the street, and they're all walking with their face in a phone across red lights, almost getting hit by cars.
Now, just to finish off, actually. A serious but semi-serious question, Debbie. I'm a believer that the biggest deceiver of ourselves is ourselves, and also that not to be disparaging, because I was one of them. Is a lot of the population are effective, but also they're asleep. They're sleepwalking through their life. How can you actually wake up, Debbie?
That's a good.
You got 30 seconds to give me.
And go.
Go, Debbie.
You know what? You got to do what you love and what you have passion for.
Yeah.
And you have to do things also that make you feel good as well. Or you should be doing things because if you're an entrepreneur, like most of your listeners are, or even if you work for somebody, you still got to pick yourself up and do it and achieve goals, accomplish things. If you're not doing it, we don't have people that, are lined up and hired then that could replace us so easily, right? So we need to take care of ourselves, take care of our body, be mindful, be present, not be on this thing when we're at the dinner table. Every now and again it's okay, but that's what I try to do, at least. Just incorporate, have fun, because if you're not having fun, then if you're not smiling, then what's the point?
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, and you touched on it earlier. You made a great point. You said it casually, but earlier we were talking about getting things scheduled, and you also mentioned scheduling fun. And I think that's important. If you want to write a book and you want to get those 400 words done, schedule it and stick to the schedule. If you want to take your spouse out to dinner once a week, schedule it and stick to the schedule. It's about what you prioritize. It comes down to priorities. That's how you keep the integrity of a schedule. It's just, are you connected to your priorities? And that's my soapbox.
and don't make your to-do list like a million things,
right.
Like achievable.
Right. It's got to
allow yourself to succeed, because after those 50 days are done, you're going to have something.
Yeah. Something else got to go in.
And move on to the next thing, and do it.
Well, I think we've solved all the world problems here, haven't we?
We have. Thank you so much, Debbie, for coming on the show. It's been a blast. I think we've covered some interesting areas.
Definitely.
And you dealt with my craziness quite well as well. So I think we ended up with a great show, Debbie.
I think so.
And hopefully you will decide to come back at some stage in the new year, and because I think we've only covered some subjects.
Oh, yeah. Really. There's a lot more we can do with Debbie here. She's all over the place with what she has to offer, and we haven't touched on a lot of it. So we hope you do come back.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed being here.
Right, awesome. Thanks, folks. We'll see you next week, where we're going to have another excellent guest and have some real insights for you. We'll see you next week, folks.
All right, bye-bye. Happy Halloween.